All right, about to start the second part of the day. It will be removing the intake manifold. I have the tools of a 9/32 socket to pull out these worm gear bolts to remove the intake, and then there's 8mm socket for the bolts that hold the intake manifold to the head, 10mm deep well socket to pull the fuel rails up and off, and that should be all that we need. Extra tools are here in case that is not all that I need. Well, time to start. Start with removing this one. And they both came off in one piece. This is the main part of your intake manifold. We'll take this and put this off to the side. Clears up a lot more room for the goal of this mission, which is a DOD replacement or DOD delete. Next, I'll be removing all of the 8mm bolts from the intake manifold using a Craftsman impact. Now, as you pull these out, I like to put them in a Ziploc bag and put what they're for on it. Make sure when you pull them off, the washer stays on. There are a few in the back that I have to get out. For that, I'll be using a ratchet. There are brackets for the ones on the rear. So remember, the bigger the two, the wider the two, the gap is for the passenger side. you can see, the driver's side is a shorter one. When you pull the bolts out, there are a total of 10 bolts that will be coming out. Those are the ones that attach the intake manifold to the heads. Currently, I am pulling off the bolts that hold on the fuel rail. Back ones I couldn't reach with the impact, so using this cobalt ratchet and socket to get them out. There's 2. Here's 2 more for the 4 intake manifold bolts. Sorry, fuel rail bolts. There's a bracket that helps hold it together. Slide this off to the side, as well as this one. There are wires for electronic throttle body that must be removed. I will enlist the help of a flathead. That's removed. This side, there's a wire holder. Pop that with the flathead. Remove it. You have the map sensor. Unplug it. Now we're left with just pulling the manifold. You might have to pull this throttle body in order to make it easier. That is a no. That's also a 10mm bolt. Oops, fell through. I'm going to check the size to see if this is the same size as the Trailblazer SS. If not, I'm going to see if I can get a Trailblazer SS throttle body for this. And the intake manifold is loose. Now it's just unplugging the injector wires. Normally, you would clean off the intake, where, as you see, this one has some issues of cleanliness, rats made nest. But for me, I am changing out the heads and everything else, so it's not a big issue. As you can see, it's already disconnected. And the intake manifold is off. Have to break the flathead back out again because the rear two injectors have the locks on them, which this is what the lock will look like. And as you see, using the flathead to go underneath the fuel rail where it bolts to the intake manifold in order to persuade the manifold off, or the fuel rail off. I got all but one injector out and doing it that way. I'll work on that, making sure that that gets seated later. But another vacuum hose, and there we go. Intake manifold is removed. There's a LS3 intake manifold and heads. So I will be vacuuming from here to get all of these wonderful little nuts and berries out. But there you have it. You take your fuel rail and move it off to the side. This will allow room for the rest of the stuff that you want to do.